It was a quiet night. The streets were almost empty. Only a few old streetlights stood, spreading weak yellow light on the road. The man walked slowly, his hands inside his pockets, lost in his own thoughts. The world was silent except for the sound of his shoes hitting the ground. Then, he heard something different. At first it was faint, like soft tapping, but soon it became clear. Footsteps. Someone was running. Fast. The sound was uneven, desperate, like someone trying to escape. He turned his head. A girl was sprinting towards him, but she didn't look like any normal girl. Her skin was pale with a strange silver glow, and her hair shimmered faintly as if it carried light inside it. Her eyes, large and bright, looked not human but otherworldly. She ran as if her life depended on it. Before he could react, she reached him and stopped suddenly. Breathing hard, her chest rising and falling, she looked terrified. Without saying a single word, she rushed behind him and hid, gripping his arm tightly. The man froze. His heart pounded. He wanted to ask, "Who are you?" or "What's happening?" But before he could, he felt it. The air changed. From the shadows, dark figures appeared at the far end of the street. Tall, armored shapes moved slowly, scanning the area with strange glowing devices. Their eyes shone red under their helmets, and their movements were cold, mechanical, and precise. The girl pressed closer to him, trembling. Then in a weak whisper, she spoke a single word, "Hide." Her voice was soft, broken, but urgent. Without thinking, the man stepped back, pulling her towards the cover of a broken wall nearby. They crouched low, hidden in the darkness, while the strange hunters moved closer. He could feel her fear. She shook as she held his sleeve, her glowing eyes wide, watching the shadows. He wanted to ask 100 questions. Why are they after you? What are they? Why hide behind me? But something in her silence told him this was bigger than he could imagine. The hunters spread out. One of them raised a device that shone a sharp blue beam across the street. The light passed dangerously close to their hiding spot. The man held his breath, his heart hammering like a drum. The girl's grip on his arm grew tighter. Her hand was ice cold yet full of life. The hunters paused. For a second, it felt like they had been found. One of them tilted its head, listening. A low mechanical sound came from inside its helmet, like static mixed with a growl. Then suddenly the light shifted away, moving in another direction. They were safe. For now. The man let out a shaky breath. The girl slowly released her grip but didn't step away. She still hid close, her body tense, her eyes darting in every direction. He looked at her carefully. Her silver glowing skin, her trembling hands, her fear. It all seemed unreal.
She was not from this world.
That was clear. Finally, he whispered, Who are you?" She didn't answer. Her lips trembled, as if she wanted to speak but couldn't. Her eyes filled with fear, and something else. Sadness. The hunters' footsteps faded into the distance, but their presence still haunted the air. The street felt colder now, more dangerous than before. The man slowly stood up, helping her to her feet. She stumbled but managed to stand, still keeping close to him. She looked at him with those strange glowing eyes filled with a silent plea, as if begging him not to leave her. In that moment, he realized something. She wasn't just hiding behind him because of fear. She had chosen him, a stranger, as her shield. Why, he didn't know. But the way she looked at him made him feel something strange. Responsibility. He glanced at the shadows where the hunters had gone. They would be back. He knew it. And now, somehow, without warning, his ordinary night had turned into something extraordinary. The girl whispered again, her voice trembling, her accent strange but soft. "Please. Don't let them take me." Those simple words cut deep. He had no idea what kind of danger he had stepped into, but he knew one thing. Whatever she was, whoever she was in danger. And now, standing there in the cold night, she had placed her trust in him. The man swallowed hard. His life had been quiet, simple, normal, but tonight it had changed. Forever. Behind him, the girl hid, trembling but hopeful. In front of him, shadows stretched long across the empty street. And somewhere in the darkness, the hunters were searching, waiting to strike again. And so the strange encounter had begun. The night was not quiet anymore. The silence had been broken and danger was moving closer. The man stood frozen for a moment, but the girl tugged his arm, her glowing eyes full of fear. "They will come back," she whispered. Her voice was shaky but certain. He didn't know who they were, but he believed her. He could feel it in his bones. The hunters were not done. The two of them moved quickly, keeping low, slipping between shadows. The girl stayed close behind him, every step light and careful, like she had done this many times before, but her breathing was heavy, uneven. She was hurt. He wanted to ask questions, but there was no time. A sudden sharp hum filled the air. A strange light swept across the street behind them. Blue, searching, almost alive. "They are scanning," she whispered. The man pulled her down behind an abandoned car. The light passed just above them, glowing through the car's broken windows. For one terrible moment he thought the hunters had spotted them, but the light moved away again, cutting through the night like a blade. He exhaled slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. He glanced at her. She looked weak, exhausted, but still alert, her eyes darting everywhere. "They will not stop," she said, voice low. "Once they choose a target, they never stop." The words chilled him. From far behind he heard heavy footsteps, metallic, steady, echoing against the pavement. "The hunters were close. Come," the girl said. Her hand, cold but strong, grabbed his wrist and pulled. They ran. The man wasn't sure why he was following her. Maybe instinct, maybe the look in her eyes. But his legs moved fast, carrying them through the dark streets. Every sound felt louder now, his shoes striking the road, her uneven breath, the distant mechanical growls. They turned a corner and entered a narrow alley. The walls were tall, cracked, covered in faded paint. Trash scattered on the ground. The smell of damp concrete filled the air. Then a shadow moved. One of the hunters stepped into the alley ahead, blocking their path. Its armor glowed faintly, red lines pulsing across its chest. Its eyes burned like fire behind its helmet. In its hand was a weapon, not like any gun he had seen before, but something alive, humming, ready to fire. The girl froze, her eyes wide with terror. Without thinking, the man grabbed her hand and pulled her sideways, ducking into another path. The hunter moved fast, almost gliding. The chase had begun. They darted through turns, jumping over broken crates, slipping past rusted fences. The man's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. The girl stumbled once, and he caught her before she fell, pulling her back to her feet. Behind them, the hunter's footsteps grew louder. Not one, but many. "They called the others," she gasped. "How many?" he asked, breathless. "Too many." They turned again, entering an old building with shattered windows. The man kicked the door shut behind them, though he knew it wouldn't hold. Dust filled the air. Inside, the place was empty. Broken chairs, torn posters, long-forgotten machines. The girl leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the darkness. She looked fragile, almost collapsing. "You need to keep moving," he said. She shook her head. "If I move, they will catch us faster." He looked at her, confused. "Then what do we do?" She reached into her clothes and pulled out a small crystal pendant. It glowed with a soft blue light, brighter than before. She held it tight, her hands trembling. "They want this," she whispered. "If they take it, your world will suffer. Not just me. Not just tonight, everyone." The man stared at the crystal, his mind struggling to understand. He didn't know who she was or what this object meant, but the weight of her words was heavy. Before he could ask more, a sound ripped through the building. A heavy crash. The hunters were inside. "Run!" she cried. He grabbed her arm and they dashed toward the back. The building shook as the hunters forced their way in, their glowing eyes slicing through the dark. A beam of red light struck the wall near him, leaving a burning hole. He ducked, pulling the girl lower. The smell of smoke and metal filled the air. They slipped through a broken doorway, stumbling into another street. The cold night air hit his face again, but there was no relief. The hunters poured out behind them, their weapons glowing, their footsteps like thunder. The girl stumbled again, weaker now. He lifted her arm over his shoulder, helping her run. She was light, almost weightless, but he could feel her shaking. "You can't carry me," she said weakly. "I'm not leaving you," he answered. The hunters were closing in. The man's legs ached, his chest burned, but he pushed forward. Every turn, every shadow was a small chance at survival. Finally, they reached an overgrown park, its benches broken, its trees wild. They hid behind a fallen statue, crouching low. The girl's eyes glowed faintly as she looked at him. "They will not stop. If you stay with me, they will hunt you too." He looked at her, then at the shadows moving in the park. The hunters were spreading out again, scanning, searching. He shook his head. Then let them hunt. I won't leave you. For the first time, her eyes softened. A faint smile touched her lips, though tears gathered there too. In the distance, the hunters' lights cut through the darkness, moving closer. The night was far from over. The pursuit had only just begun. The park was silent again, but it was not peace. It was the kind of silence that hides danger. The man crouched behind the broken statue, his chest heaving, his ears alert. Every distant sound could be the hunters. Every flicker of light could be their scan. Beside him, the alien girl leaned weakly against the stone. Her silver glow had dimmed and her breaths came uneven. She looked fragile, like a candle burning out. But her eyes, those strange glowing eyes, still carried fire. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The man wanted answers, but he was afraid his voice would give them away. Then finally, in the softest whisper, he asked, "Who are they? Why are they after you?" The girl closed her eyes as if gathering strength. Slowly, she raised her trembling hand. Between her fingers, the crystal pendant shone with faint blue light. "This," she said, voice shaking. "They want this." The man frowned, staring at the glowing shard. It was no jewel he had ever seen. The light inside it was alive, moving like liquid starlight. "What is it?" he asked. Her lips trembled. "A heart. The last heart of my people." He stared at her, not understanding. "A heart?" "Yes," she whispered. "Not a body's heart. A world's heart. A source of life." She clutched the pendant closer to her chest, her eyes filling with sorrow. "They destroyed my home. Burned the skies. Killed everyone. Only I escaped. Because I was carrying this." Her voice broke. Tears glimmered on her silver cheeks, shining like crystals under the weak moonlight. The man felt a chill deeper than fear. "You mean, your people are gone?" She nodded, her shoulders shaking. "Gone. Forever." For the first time, he saw her not as strange or alien, but as broken. Alone. A survivor carrying the weight of an entire world. He wanted to say something, anything, but his throat tightened. What words could heal a wound like that? Before he could speak, she continued. "Now they want this last piece. If they take it, they will use it to destroy again. They will grow stronger. They will turn their eyes. To your world next." The man's breath caught. His mind spun, trying to make sense of it. This wasn't just about a girl running through the night. This was about Earth, about everyone he knew. His heart raced faster, not just from fear now, but from the weight of responsibility pressing down. He whispered, "Why hide behind me? Why trust me?" Her glowing eyes lifted to his, shimmering with tears. "Because you didn't run. I thought, maybe humans are different." Those words struck him deeply. He had done nothing special, only stood still while she hid. Yet to her, that was everything. Suddenly, the silence cracked. A low hum drifted across the park. The hunters were near again. Their red eyes glowed faintly between the trees, scanning. The girl tucked the crystal close and leaned against him, her body trembling. "If they find me, you must take it." "Do not let them win." He shook his head, whispering harshly. "No, I can't. I don't even understand it." "You don't need to," she said, her voice soft but strong. "You only need courage. That is enough." Her words lit something inside him. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. But somehow she believed in him. And for the first time, he wanted to believe it too. The hunter's footsteps grew louder, crunching against leaves. One of their scanning lights passed dangerously close, slicing across the statue. The man held his breath, shielding her with his body. The blue light paused, hovered, then shifted away. The hunters moved on. For now, they were still safe. The man exhaled, trembling. He turned back to her. "We can't stay here. Where do we go?" She looked at the glowing pendant, then at him. "Somewhere they cannot follow. Somewhere with light." "They fear light," he frowned. "What kind of light?" "Pure light," she whispered. "Life's light. Your world has it, hidden in places you don't see." He didn't understand, but there was no time. He nodded. "Then we'll find it." She gave the faintest smile, her first since the night began. It was small, fragile, but real. But before they could move, a sound cracked the air, sharp, metallic, terrifying. The hunters had found their trail again. Red eyes glowed brighter in the distance. The man pulled her up, steadying her weak steps. "Come on," he said firmly. "We're not giving up." And for the first time, she didn't resist. She let him lead. Together they ran again, deeper into the night. But now he carried not just her weight, not just her trust, he carried the fate of something far greater. The crystal glowed against her chest, pulsing like a heartbeat. A heartbeat that was no longer only hers, but his to protect. The first clue had been revealed, and with it the truth this was not just her fight. It was humanity's fight too. The night dragged on, but the man and the alien girl did not stop. They moved through empty streets, broken alleys, and forgotten corners of the city. Behind them, the hunters followed like shadows that never grew tired. The man could feel her weight against his side. She was getting weaker. Every step looked painful for her. Her legs trembled, and her glowing skin had lost much of its shine. Still, she refused to stop. At last, they slipped into an old warehouse. The door creaked loudly and dust fell from its rusted frame, but inside was shelter. It was dark, cold, and empty. Broken crates lay scattered on the floor, and the smell of oil lingered in the air. The man lowered her gently against a wall. She sank down, breathing hard, clutching the glowing crystal close to her chest. "You should rest," he whispered. Her glowing eyes looked up at him. "Rest means death. If we stop, they will find us." He shook his head. "You can't keep running like this. You'll collapse before they even catch us." For a moment she said nothing. Then slowly she nodded. She let the crystal fall into her lap and leaned back against the wall, her head tilting sideways, her eyes half closed. The man crouched in front of her. He could see now how fragile she looked, thin, exhausted, almost breakable. Yet there was something powerful in her presence, something that went beyond her body. "You risked yourself for me," she whispered. He frowned. "I didn't do much." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "Humans think that way. They think courage is only in great battles. But sometimes, courage is in standing still, not running, not leaving." The words hit him deeper than he expected. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, unimportant. Yet in her eyes he was more. He found an old cloth nearby and tore it into strips. "You're hurt," he said, pointing to the wound on her arm. She glanced at it like she hadn't noticed, but blood, strange silver blood, streaked down her skin. He carefully wrapped the cloth around it. She winced but didn't pull away. Her glowing eyes stayed fixed on his face, studying him. "Why do you help me?" she asked softly. He paused, then shrugged. "Because you needed it," her voice lowered. "Even though it puts you in danger?" He nodded. "Especially then." Her gaze softened, and for the first time she didn't look like an alien. She looked like a girl who had lost everything and finally found someone who wouldn't abandon her. Silence stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. He sat beside her, his back against the same wall. The cold air filled the warehouse, but somehow it didn't feel as empty anymore. After a while, she spoke again, her voice almost a whisper. "My people, we believed every world has a light, a life force. But the hunters don't believe in light. They believe in control, in silence, in empty skies with no stars left shining." He listened, his heart heavy. He couldn't imagine losing an entire world. He couldn't imagine carrying that pain alone. She looked down at the crystal in her lap. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "This is the last of my world's light. If it fades, my people will be forgotten forever." He stared at it. "And if it survives?" Her lips trembled, but she whispered, "Then maybe there is hope. Maybe my world will not be truly gone." The man clenched his fists. He wasn't sure how, but he knew one thing. He could not let that hope be destroyed. Suddenly, the sound of metal echoed outside. The hunters were near again. The girl stiffened, clutching the crystal close. Fear returned to her eyes. The man stood quickly, scanning the dark corners of the warehouse. He spotted a broken staircase leading up to a half-collapsed loft. "Come on," he said. "We'll hide up there." She tried to stand, but her legs shook too much. Without hesitation, he lifted her in his arms. She was light, almost weightless, but he could feel her trembling against him. "Put me down," she whispered weakly. He shook his head. Not a chance. She looked at him in silence, her glowing eyes shimmering with something unspoken. Trust. They climbed the staircase, each step groaning under his weight. At the top, he set her down gently behind an old machine. From up there, they could see the warehouse entrance. The hunters entered moments later. Their red eyes cut through the darkness like knives. Their metallic footsteps echoed across the floor. One of them raised a scanner and blue light spread across the room. The man held his breath. Beside him, the girl pressed her face into his shoulder, hiding her glow. He wrapped an arm around her protectively, shielding her as best he could. The hunters searched slow and careful. The light passed dangerously close to their hiding place. The girl whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Why risk yourself for me?" He didn't think. He just answered, "Because someone has to." Her breath caught. For a moment, the fear in her eyes softened into something else, something warm. The hunters moved on, their footsteps fading toward the far end of the warehouse. For now they were safe again. The man looked down at her. She was staring at him with those strange, glowing eyes. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say more, but she didn't. Instead, she rested her head against his shoulder. For the first time since the night began, she allowed herself to close her eyes, and for the first time, he realized, he didn't feel like he was just protecting her anymore. She was protecting him too in ways he couldn't yet understand. The bond between them had begun. The warehouse was not safe anymore. The man knew it. The girl knew it. The hunters were moving closer with every second. Their heavy footsteps shook the ground, their glowing eyes cutting through the shadows like blades. The man helped the alien girl to her feet. She was weak, leaning against him, but her grip on the crystal pendant was firm. It pulsed with light, as if alive, as if warning them both. "They are too many," she whispered. He tightened his jaw. "Then we face them." Her glowing eyes widened. "You cannot fight them. They are stronger, faster, built to kill." He glanced at her, his voice steady. "Maybe, but I won't stand aside." "Not now." For a moment she just looked at him. Something changed in her gaze. Fear mixed with disbelief and maybe even hope. The hunters entered fully, their metallic forms spreading out. Their voices crackled through strange helmets, low and cold. "Target detected, surrender." The man stepped forward, placing himself between the girl and the hunters. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but he didn't move aside. "She's not going with you," he said firmly. His voice trembled slightly, but his stance did not. The lead hunter tilted its head, red eyes glowing. "Human, you are irrelevant. Move aside." The man shook his head. "Not a chance." Silence fell. The hunters stood still for a moment, their machines humming, scanning him. Then one stepped closer. Its armored hand reached out as if to push him away. He didn't think. He acted. With sudden force, he grabbed a metal rod from the floor and swung it. The rod smashed against the hunter's arm, sparks flying. The creature staggered back, its red eyes flashing brighter. The others advanced. The warehouse exploded into chaos. The man fought wildly, swinging the rod again and again, using every ounce of strength. The hunters were stronger, their movements sharp and brutal. But his strikes were desperate, filled with something machines could never understand: fear, anger, and the need to protect. One hunter lunged forward, its weapon glowing. The man barely ducked as a beam of red energy burned across the wall. He shoved the rod into its chest, sparks bursting as the creature staggered. Behind him, the girl cried out, raising the glowing crystal. Blue light flared from it, spreading across the room like lightning. For a moment, the hunters froze, their movements jerking, their red eyes dimming. The man turned to her, stunned. What did you do?" Her voice shook. "The light weakens them, but it takes my strength." He saw her trembling, her body glowing brighter. Too bright. She was burning her own energy to hold them back. The hunters roared in static growls, breaking free from the light. They advanced again, angrier now, their weapons humming louder. The man gritted his teeth, standing tall. "Stay behind me." He faced them again, his rod held like a sword. He was bleeding, his body aching, but his eyes were sharp. He would not let them pass. The lead hunter spoke again, its voice harsh and metallic. "Human, why do you fight? She is not yours to protect." The man's voice thundered back, louder than he thought possible. "Because she chose me, and I chose her." With that, he charged forward. The fight was brutal. Sparks lit the darkness as metal clashed against metal, as beams of energy tore through the air. The man dodged, rolled, swung with every ounce of will. His arms burned, his chest ached, but he kept going. The girl, weak but determined, raised the crystal again. Its light burst out, striking one of the hunters directly. The creature convulsed and collapsed, smoke rising from its armor. But the effort drained her. She fell to her knees, gasping, the glow of her skin flickering. "Don't stop," she cried. The man fought harder. One hunter slammed him into the wall, the impact knocking the breath out of him. Pain shot through his ribs. The machine raised its weapon to strike, but the girl crawled forward, thrusting the glowing crystal into its chest. Blue light exploded, tearing through its body. The hunter screeched in a metallic roar and collapsed into a heap of broken parts. The room shook with silence again. Only 2 hunters remained, watching. Their red eyes glowed brighter, their voices low and cruel. "You cannot win, human. She will fall, and when she does, so will you." The man spat blood, his grip on the rod shaking. He looked at the girl. She was on the ground, trembling, barely holding the crystal, yet her eyes met his, and in them he saw no surrender. He stood tall again, his voice steady. "Maybe, but I'll fight until the end." The hunters moved closer, their steps heavy, their weapons humming. The confrontation was not over. It had only just begun, and in that moment the man realized something. He was no longer fighting just for her. He was fighting for himself, for humanity, for a chance to prove that courage could stand against fear. The hunters raised their weapons. The air crackled with energy, and the man tightened his grip, ready to face them. The warehouse shook with every step of the hunters. Their glowing red eyes cut through the shadows, and their weapons hummed like angry storms. The man stood in front of the alien girl, his chest heaving, the metal rod in his hands shaking from exhaustion. He was bleeding. His ribs screamed with pain. His arms felt heavy as if they would fail at any second. But he did not move aside. Behind him, the girl struggled to breathe. She held the glowing crystal close to her chest, its blue light pulsing weakly like a fading heartbeat. Her silver glow flickered, dimmer than ever. The hunters stepped closer. Their voices crackled, low and cruel. "Surrender the source, or be erased." The man spat blood onto the floor and lifted the rod again. "You'll have to go through me." The hunters tilted their heads, their red eyes locking onto him. Then they charged. The air exploded with chaos. One hunter swung its weapon, a streak of red energy slicing through the air. The man ducked, the heat grazing his shoulder, searing flesh. He roared in pain but swung back, smashing the rod against the machine's leg. Sparks flew, but the hunter barely staggered. The second one grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. His vision blurred, air cut from his lungs. The hunter raised its blade arm to finish him, but the girl screamed. Blue light erupted from the crystal, shooting across the room in a wave. The hunter released the man, convulsing as the light tore into its armor. The creature stumbled back, its body crackling with energy. The man fell to the ground, coughing, clutching his throat. He looked at her in shock. She was on her knees, trembling, her face pale, her silver skin almost dull. Every burst of light from the crystal seemed to drain her life. "Stop!" he shouted, his voice raw. "You're killing yourself." She shook her head weakly, her glowing eyes filled with tears. "There is no other way." The remaining hunter advanced, unfazed. Its red eyes locked on the girl. The man forced himself to stand. His body screamed in protest, but he pushed forward, swinging the rod with all his strength. It clanged against the hunter's chest, useless, but he didn't care. He struck again and again, shouting with every hit, refusing to back down. The hunter grabbed the rod mid-swing and snapped it in two. The man froze, his weapon gone. The hunter raised its arm, weapon glowing red, aimed at the girl. Time slowed. The girl looked up at the man. Her lips trembled, but her voice was clear. "Take the crystal." He shook his head, horrified. "No, don't say that." Her tears shimmered as they rolled down her silver cheeks. "Please, if I fall, you must protect it. Protect your world." He stumbled toward her, his heart breaking. "You're not going to fall? We'll make it together." Her smile was faint, fragile. "You are brave. Braver than you know. That is why I chose you." The hunter's weapon charged, energy crackling at its tip. The girl screamed again, pressing the crystal to her chest. Blue light burst out in a blinding wave, brighter than ever before. The entire warehouse glowed like a star had been born inside it. The hunter roared, its body tearing apart under the power. Sparks and shards of metal flew as it collapsed, destroyed, but the light did not stop. The man shielded his eyes, stumbling backward. He felt warmth, sorrow, and something deeper, sacrifice. When the glow finally faded, the warehouse was silent. The last hunter lay in ruins, smoke rising from its broken shell. The man turned quickly. The girl was still kneeling, but her glow was almost gone. The crystal in her hands dimmed, its light flickering weakly. He dropped to his knees beside her. No, stay with me." Her head tilted toward him, her glowing eyes now faint, almost human. She smiled softly, though her lips trembled. "It is done," she whispered. "You are safe." He shook his head violently. "No. We are safe, both of us. Don't you dare give up now." Her hand lifted slowly, brushing against his cheek. Her touch was cold, but gentle. "Do not cry for me," she whispered. "Cry for the stars that are gone. But remember, hope lives in you now." Tears blurred his vision. He gripped her hand tightly. "Please, don't leave me. I can't." She pressed the crystal into his palm. Its faint light pulsed once, as if alive. "Protect it," she breathed. "Protect them." Her eyes closed. Her silver glow faded completely. The man froze. The warehouse was silent again, but it was not peace. It was loss. A weight heavier than any wound pressed on his chest. He held her body close, shaking, his tears falling onto her still face. The crystal in his hand pulsed faintly like a final heartbeat. She was gone, and yet, in his hand, the last piece of her world still lived. The sacrifice had been made. The warehouse was silent now. Broken machines and shattered walls stood as the only witnesses to what had happened. Smoke drifted through the air, rising slowly into the broken roof. The man knelt on the cold floor, the alien girl's body cradled in his arms. Her silver glow was gone. Her skin, once shining with starlight, looked pale and still. She was no longer trembling. She was no longer breathing. He couldn't accept it. His hands shook as he pressed the glowing crystal against her chest, hoping it would bring her back. But the light only pulsed faintly. Weak, like a dying ember. "Please," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Don't leave me. Not like this." No answer came, only silence. Tears ran down his face, dripping onto her still form. His chest ached with a pain he had never known before. In just a single night, she had gone from a stranger to someone who carried the weight of his soul. And now she was gone. The crystal glowed in his hand again, a faint pulse as if reminding him of her final words. "Protect it. Protect them." He looked at it, his vision blurred by tears. He didn't know how. He didn't know why she had chosen him. He was just a man, ordinary, unimportant. But she had believed in him. She had given her last breath to him, and that belief was enough to change everything. He placed the crystal carefully against his chest. Its warmth spread through him, not burning, but comforting. It was as if her presence still lived inside it. Slowly he stood. His legs trembled, his body screamed with pain, but he rose anyway. He carried her in his arms, stepping through the ruined warehouse and into the night. Outside, the world was still. The stars above shimmered faintly, distant and cold. For a moment he wondered if any of them were the star she had once called home. He laid her gently beneath the broken statue in the overgrown park, the same place where she had first told him the truth. He folded her hands across her chest and placed the crystal over her heart, though it now belonged to him. He whispered softly, "Rest here. No one will hurt you anymore." Then he knelt beside her, his hands clenched, his tears falling onto the grass. But in the stillness of the night something shifted. The crystal glowed again, brighter than before. Its blue light spread across her form, wrapping her in a soft shimmer. Not enough to bring her back, but enough to honor her. The light rose, gently into the sky, drifting upward like fireflies until it vanished among the stars. The man stared, his heart breaking and healing all at once. He realized then, the crystal wasn't just a weapon, it wasn't just power, it was memory. It carried her people, her world, her hope, and now it had chosen him as its guardian. He looked at the stars again, his voice steady despite the tears. "You're not gone, not really. You live here now, with me, and I promise, I'll protect it. I'll protect them, just like you asked." The night wind brushed past him, carrying the faintest whisper. For a moment he swore he heard her voice. "Humans are worth saving." He closed his eyes, clutching the crystal close to his chest. Her words were carved into his soul. He stayed beside her until the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The city slowly woke, unaware of the battle that had taken place in its shadows, unaware of the sacrifice made to keep them safe. The man rose at last. His body was broken, but his spirit was not. He left her resting place, carrying the crystal and the weight of her trust. The hunters were gone, destroyed, for now. But he knew more would come. The war that had taken her world was not finished. And one day, Earth would stand in its path. When that day came, he would be ready, because he had learned something that night. Courage was not about winning. It was about standing, even when defeat seemed certain. It was about protecting, even when you were afraid. It was about choosing to fight simply because someone had to. As the sun rose higher, the man walked down the empty street. His shadow stretched long behind him, and in his hand, the crystal pulsed softly with light, like a heartbeat. It was no longer only the last piece of her world. It was a promise that her sacrifice would never be forgotten, a promise that her hope would live on, a promise that humanity was worth saving and would prove it, no matter the cost. The man lifted his eyes to the sky, his heart heavy but strong. And somewhere among the stars he believed she was watching. The truth was heartbreaking, but it was also clear. She was gone. Yet because of her, humanity's light had just begun.